Hi everybody, Debbie here from Craftywafty, and today I'm going to show you how to make one of the handcrafted crackers. Now this one, I've decorated it for Halloween, okay, and I thought it would be cool to put in some little sweeties inside already, like a lollipop or some of those little mini bars that you can get, or like a little packets of sweeties that you can pop in there. And I thought these would be really nice to sort of hand out to the children that knock the door for Halloween. But obviously you can make these for any occasion, whether it's Christmas, birthdays, weddings, etc., like for party favors and all of those sort of things. But they're really lovely and handy things to make, and to know how to do that without using a die. So that's why I've called it handcrafted, because all of this, with all the measurements and everything, is all done by hand. Okay. Now on your instructions, you will see that you've got two methods of making the basic cracker. You've either got the 6.5 inch by 8 inch. So if you wanted to cut up a sheet, you can do that. Or you can use some strips. Now I find that when I've been making a lot of albums and things like that, and pages and what have you, that I tend to have quite a few strips of card left over. So I wanted to be able to utilise these in something that I could make, and that's how, really, if I'm honest, the cracker came about, because I had all these strips left over and I thought, what am I going to do with those? I know, I'll make a Christmas cracker. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you both methods on how to make the base, okay, and put the base together, and then we'll go through all the measurements and everything that's I've mentioned on the instructions, like the drawing, the pencil lines and stuff like that. So I'm just going to pop that to one side for the minute. So let's start off with these. Now these should be 8 inch by 2 inch. Okay, so I'm just going to get my little ruler out. Now let's just have a little measure and see what the width of these are. And look at that, these are actually 2 inches. Okay, so that's, I need 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, just checking these against each other, 3, 4. Okay, so it gives me plenty to use for those scraps for another cracker another day. Okay, and these all need to be cut at 8 inches. So let's just line that up. Now this is an 8 inch ruler, so I'm just going to line these up. I'm going to cut these all in one go. Obviously you don't have to. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to keep these bits here because these can be used to make the tags and stuff, or the labels, what have you, when it comes to decorating. So I'm going to just pop them to one side. So here we are, our 2 inch, and we've got 4 of those. Okay, so that now I'm going to get my lovely scoreboard, and what we're going to do is that we're going to score 1/2 inch on the 2 inch side. So we're just going to do that first on all of those. 1, 2, 3, and then number 4. Okay, and then we need to score on the 8 inch side. So let's just, oops. I'm stuck together on the 8 inch side, and we've got measurements at 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and then 5.5, 6, and 6.5. So I need to repeat to do that on all of these. So that's 1, 2, 3 there, and then we go 1, 2, 3 there. So this is a really good way of using up scraps. I'm all about trying to keep the costs down, but you know, if you can use up your scraps, that's even better. That's how some of my other projects came about, actually. was the little Dinky Winky Doodah album. That was using up scraps as well. So I'm a great believer in trying to sort of get the most out of what we've got. Okay, so that is all we need to do on the 2-inch ones. Now, if you're going with the 8.5 inch by the 8 inch by 6.5 inch, so on the 6.5 inch side we're going to score down again the 1.5, then we go 3, then we have 4.5, and then we have the 6, which leaves us the little 1/2 inch here. This is going to be our tab that we glue the whole cracker together. And now if I turn it round onto the other side, onto the 8-inch side, we've got the 1.5, the 2, and the 2.5 there, and then we come up here and we got the 5.5, the 6, and the 6.5. Okay, so that's all the scoring that we need to do on both of these. Now, when it comes to the red liner tape, well, just while we've got this one to hand, we're just going to put some red liner tape along the tab, okay, because this is what's going to hold the cracker all together at the end of the day. So I'm just putting that on what I call the valley side. So the bump bit where we've scored in is on the opposite side. So I'm just going to put that across, and I'm just going to snip that. Okay, but for this one, what we need to do is on the 1/2 inch on here, we need to put a bit of red liner tape on all of those because we've got to join these together. Okay, now it's up to you. You could, if you wanted to, join them all together first and then do the scoring. It really doesn't matter which way around you do it, whichever you feel easier and more comfortable with doing. But we're just going to sort of pop these along. So in some sense, yes, this does use up a little bit more red liner tape, but it is also using up your scraps. If you haven't got red liner tape, a good glue will do as well, or a double-sided tape. Just what I happen to have to hand. So a good bit of bookbinding glue is always good, but because this is construction, I always personally use the red liner tape. Right, 1, 2, 3, and then we've got this bit coming across here, and this is number 4. Okay, so the idea is that we're now going to peel these off and stick these onto one another, so we end up creating a sheet pretty much like that. Okay, so I'm just going to give these a little burnish beforehand, just to make sure that that red liner tape is stuck. There we go, and carry on with that one. Okay, right, let's peel one off at a time. Now, if you're a little bit unsure about sticking these straight down, then do use a little bit of glue. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm lining this edge up here with that score line that we put in, because that will give us the edge of our box or our cracker when we come to fold it. And then I'm just going to do the other one, and also I can see where I've done the score lines, so I can get those lined up as well. Now, as you can see, each one I'm sticking down, I'm making sure the red liner tape is on the other side. So I'm just lining that one up. You can see why I say about putting the glue down if you need to have a little bit of wiggle room. So that's number 3, and then the 4th one, okay, is here, and I can just see where that score line is. Line up the other ones, but like I said, you could have stuck all 4 together first and then done your score lines. Okay, so this is our cracker. So you can see that at the end of the day, we end up with exactly the same. This one is just obviously smoother because we haven't done any joins like we have on this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fold on the bubble, just give this a bit of a crease initially, just to see how those are lining up. And on there, I'm just going to get my bone folder, just going to give that a bit of a, so you can see, I get a nice sharp edges on here, like so. So they're the long ways we've done, and then I'm going to do the same on this one. Just making sure that we've got nice folds on here. Now obviously you can take your time doing this. I'm just sort of zooming through these. Here we go. That's the other one, and then the final one. Here we go. Oops, come on, which is a little half bit. Actually might be easier to fold it like that. There we go. Trying to fold over, it wasn't plain ball, that one. Right, okay, so now we've done that, we're now going to fold on the other ones. Now for these three, we're going to do we're going to sort of almost concertina it as we fold it. So with the bumps facing upwards, what we're going to do is that we're going to flip it over, and then we're going to fold back on ourselves. So we're actually folding into the valley and back. Okay, and then we're going to do the same again and back. It's probably easier just to get these folding each way, actually, thinking about it, and back. So that now what I can do, I can now fold that so we get a valley coming up in the center. Okay, and that's going to come along. Let's just give that a nice crease like so. Okay, because that's going to be your cracker bit, so that's going to help with this bit when we come to cut that. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same on the other side. I'm just going to fold that back, fold the valley, there we go, and fold that like so. And again, I'm just going to give that a really good crease. So we're getting all these folds in before we do anything else. Okay, so that's all our folds, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other style of cracker. So we're going to fold that back. I'm going to come in on the valley. This is a little bit trickier because obviously we've got the overlap of the strips, so just make sure you give it a good firm fold on there. Right, so come back on ourselves, we're going to come over, and then we're going to come back again. But at the end of the day, you're going to end up with exactly the same, like so. Okay, now on the valley side, okay, because this is going to be our outer edge because of where the red liner tape is. So this is the outside, this is the inside. What we're going to do is we're going to draw on our pencil marks. Okay, now you've got quite a few pencil marks to put on here, so I'm just going to get my other ruler. So I'm going to work with making sure I've got the little tab end at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to come in and do these side ones first. So these pencil lines, we're going to come in at 3/4 of an inch. Right, where are we? 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to draw the pencil line right from the top to the bottom. And then you've got to do 7 1/4, but I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to do 3/4. So long as it's the same distance, whichever way is easier for you to work out, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to do that. So they're my 2 pencil marks, and I'm going to do exactly the same on this one. So we'll do them as we go through. So we're just going to line that up. So that's 3/4, and then again turn it round, and we've got another 3/4. Okay. Now what we're going to do is make sure we've got the tab to your right hand side for this one, because now we're going to draw our lines coming down on each section of the cracker. Okay, and your measurements, you're going to come in from this end edge here. So our first measurement is 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to line that up, and I'm going to go right the way down 1/2 inch, and then we go 1 inch. So again, lining that edge up, and we're going to come in 1 inch. Okay, then our next measurement is 2 inches. So I'm just going to work our way along. So that's 2 inches. Then we've got 2.5. So we're just all going in one direction with these, 2.5. Then our next one is 3.5. Right, 3.5. 3.5, and then we've got 4. There we are, 4 inches, and then we've got 5 inches. Just line that up. There we go, 5 inches, and then 5.5, and then coming into the 5.5. 5.5. Okay, so you end up with where each panel is. Okay, you've then got 2 lines. Now these lines are going to be important when it comes to doing our cutting. Okay, so in each panel you should have 2 lines almost into the middle of each of your panels. Okay, and then the other pencil line that you need to do is coming from, we're coming up to where this pencil line that's coming in here. Okay, what we're going to do is we are going to draw 3/4 of an inch. All right, so we'll just line that up, 3/4 of an inch, and basically the line is going to come in between those 2 lines that we've just drawn on each panel. Okay, so because this is going to help us with our cutting, so that is 3/4, and we've got 2.25. 2.25. Now you can, if you want to do it both ends at the same time, but I'm going to just work my way through here. 4.75. So 1, 2, 3, 4.75. No, I've missed one. My mistake. Where am I? I'm looking at the right. I think that's meant to be 3.75 actually. My mistake. Can't read my own pattern properly. Right, so that is 1, 2, 3.75. There we go. 3.75, and then the last one is 5.25. Right, and 5.25. So I've got an extra line there. Let's rub that out. Okay. All right, so there we go. So you end up with, can you see that, where you've had those 2 lines coming across, that one line going down, you can now see that you've got the other line halfway through that, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. So I'm just going to bring this up. So that was 3/4 of an inch. So I can see where my pencil line is, and I'm just going to draw that down. And then we've got 2 1/4. And then we've got 3 3/4. 1, 2, 3, just making sure everything is all lined up. 3 3/4 and then 5 1/4. Right, there we go. And 5 1/4 there. Okay. All right, and then I would repeat that on the other one, but we'll just stick to this one for now. Okay, so we've put our pencil lines incoming down, we've put our pencil lines going across, and we've come in and done these little ones on the end. Okay, the next part then is to make a decision as to whether or not you want to cut this shape out here, or whether you want to leave them square. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on this one how to do this cutout. Okay, but on the other one I'm going to leave them square so you can see the difference. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to cut in these little gaps here, these little notches that are going to help us fold that down. So what I'm going to do is where I'm going to fold back on myself. Okay, so I'm now folding so that we've got the outside or the inside come into the outside, so you can see your pencil marks. Okay, and with a pair of scissors, let's start off with this edge where you've got the 3 score lines, 1 2 3, and that first pencil line that comes up to there. Okay, so this section here, we're going to cut a diagonal going there and then down. All right, so if I just draw that on, so excuse my wobbly, but basically I'm going to cut there and there, and what I will be doing is I'll be cutting through that piece and the bit that I've folded underneath. So I take it from where this edge is here on the fold, okay, on that first score line, going up to that first pencil line, which is the second score line in. So let me just cut like so. So you can see I've just done that. Okay, now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to come up from the last of that score line out of the 3, and I'm going to cut going the opposite way to that middle score line. Okay, so that leaves me a little bit, and when I open that up, you can now see you've got your little like diamond shape on the inside. Okay, I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. I'm going to cut from the edge of that score line to the center score line, and come in again from the outer score line to the center score line, but only cutting it up to that pencil mark. All right, and now you can see I've got 2 holes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it again, and I'm going to repeat. Okay, so from this outer score line up to that first pencil line, and coming across. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same. It's a bit hard for me to hold it that way. Let's hold it that way. There we go. So we come in across to the pencil line, and then from that end score line to the pencil line into that center of the thing. So you can now see this shape is beginning to come together for our cracker. I'm just going to fold over the next one on the next line and repeat it. So up to that first score line, and then we're going to come and we're going to cut cut that out. And then I'm going to come and do, that's it, up to the middle, and from that other score line. Now, I know with the die, these will be absolutely perfect, but at the end of the day, these are handcrafted, and that's the beauty of those. So at the moment, we've got those 3 holes put in. I need to do the same on this edge, okay, but I'm just cutting through that single edge. So it goes up to that point and up to that point. Let's not quite cut that out. And I'm going to do the same on this one. Okay, and there we go. We're just going to cut that. All right, and then this side, because I've got, that's the edge with my tab, okay, I'm going to tuck the tab underneath so that when I cut it, it's going to cut the tab bit as well. Okay, so there's my tab bit cut underneath, but there's my markings, and I'm going to cut up on there. And because we've already put the red liner tape on, it will help with when we come to put it together. Okay, so that's fine, because when I wrap that round, I'm not worried about that. And then we're going to come and do this last bit. Let's fold that back round so I can get that a better grip at that. There we are. And okay, and then I'm going to come in and do the same on this one. Okay, so there is our cracker. So when I wrap that round on the outside, you can see, and that's where it's going to stick, where we're going to have our basic cracker made, and then these bits will push in to create that cracker shape. Okay, right, now the next bit, if you are going to put your cards stock on, because you want this shape here, we need to cut these out and make sure that these are going to be fine for that. So let me just take, I've got some bits here. Okay, oh, they're for my little tabs. Now, on your pattern, I've told you that for the main box panel, that's what I'm referring to as the bit that goes in there. And then the ends of the crackers are the little squares that are going to come in there. Now, if you wanted the pattern to be continual, going right across that one side, like for example that, then if you cut your pieces of paper at 5 1/4 by 1 1/4, then you're going to get that effect going across. So let me just show you on one side. So this one here, I just need to, I've already pre-cut it down to 1 1/4, but I just need to cut that end off at 1 1/4. Okay, and then the other end at 1 1/4. So let's just measure that on there. Okay, so now you can see that that will follow right the way across. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that to one side for the minute. I'm just going to ink round the 3 sides, because this side will be cut, and I'm just going to ink round these 3 sides. Okay, and let's get my lovely glue. There we are. Okay, so I'm just going to, now obviously you can faux stitch and everything else, but I just wanted to show you how I get the pattern. So this square, I'm just going to sit it in the center of that end piece of the cracker and leave in about 1/8 of an inch black gap all the way round. And I'm just going to, whoops, not drop it, Deb. Fiddly little thing. Right, okay, put the glue on. Not on my fingers though, would be helpful. Okay, I just want to check that was the right way round. Yeah, it's scooping down that way. And I'm just going to stick that in there as well. Okay, and making sure again I've got about that 1/8 of an inch black edging to it. Okay, now when I flip this over, I can now cut out that triangle shape. Okay, and this is why we have this 3/4 of an inch line coming up to where that main score line, pencil line rather, is coming down here. Okay, because that's where I'm going to cut it. So let me just show you on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it from where the score line is on either side, and I'm going to cut going up to the center of that point there where it meets that line, and then I'm going to come back down again. Okay, so we're just going to cut straight up to that point, and then I'm going to come down the other side like so. Is that coming out? Give it a little twist. There we are. All right, and now you can see I've cut in that shape, and I'm just going to go around and ink that edge there. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that on the other side. So I'm coming from that score line on that panel. Yeah, so there's your panel, there's the score lines, there's that pencil mark that we put in, going up to this line coming down here. So that's my guide. So I'm just going to cut straight to that point, and then I'm going to come along and I'm going to cut like so. Didn't quite go up as far as that. There we are. All right, and now you can see I've got the 2 ends done for this cracker. Okay, now if you didn't want those ends cut like that and you just wanted to leave them box shape, then you wouldn't need to put your pencil line down or having this little pencil line coming in. You wouldn't need that at all. You would just need the other pencil lines to do your like little diamonds to create the cracker. Okay, but when I obviously fold that in, you can see that those give that shape. Okay, if you wanted to have your black line going around there, then I suggest that you cut your piece of card so that it will fit round that. But I just thought that was the easiest way of doing it, and I quite like the fact that it sort of comes right to the very edge. Okay, all right, so that's what we will do. We will carry on with this. Now I've got the center point here, so while I've got this color, I'm just going to put this on. Little bit of ink going round, and like I said, I can do my faux stitching and everything on top of that. So I'm just going to pop that on. And you can see what I mean by saying that if you wanted the pattern to follow all the way through, so that when that closes up, once you've got your, you can see what it says there. Okay, but that's only because of this particular paper that I'm using. All right, but if you are using patterned paper to make your whole cracker, then obviously you wouldn't need to worry about doing these bits other than just cutting out, because the whole cracker will be covered, and then you can just put your layers on of patterned other papers and stuff like that for your decoration. Okay, so these were the other bits that I had for this particular one, and I'm actually going to turn these round, and then I've got this one which says Joy to the World, which I'm going to use there. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this bit, and then we'll come back and I can show you the next part. Okay, see you in a minute. Right, so as you can see, I've finished decorating the Christmas cracker. Obviously, it's better to decorate it while it's flat. Okay, well, certainly with the base patterned paper and stuff on there. If you're going to put other bits on there, you might want to do it once you've folded it up. And I've gone along and I've cut out all of those. And what I've done is I've just started to rub out the pencil marks, so that when it's put together, you're not going to see those. And then the other one, which was the one that we used the strips for to make, I've left it straight. Okay, so I've just put the squares on, so you could just see the difference as to what they're both going to look like. Okay, and what I have done is, I'll show you on here because it's clearer, is I've gone round and I've done like little faux stitches, which is just little black dashes going all the way round the paper, just to sort of finish that off. And again, just sort of rubbing out the pencil marks that I've done already. Now on this one, when you fold this over, okay, because when we're going to sort of glue it together, you'll notice I've trimmed one end, but you'll notice that where this comes over, that I've got a bit of an ear sticking up as it were. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that at an angle, just so that that will sit in behind this bit that comes over. And I did that on both things. So now when I sit that together, you can see I can't see that. I didn't need to worry about this one because obviously that's all square, so it doesn't have any ears showing, so to speak. Okay, and the other thing I did check is that when I folded these over, I just made sure that these other little flaps here, that when you line it up, are going to disappear underneath the black card. If you can see them, then you can just sort of trim them down a bit. Okay, so the next stage really, I suppose, is to glue this together. Now you can sort of fold it over and stick it down like so. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do one bit at a time. I'm going to take the middle bit off first, and I am going to add just a little bit of glue, just for a little bit of wiggle room, as I like to call it. I'm just going to come in there because red liner tape is not very forgiving, and I'm just going to make sure that that seam or the edge of that bit of card comes up to where that fold is, so you get a nice finish on there. So I'm just going to hold that in place, and now I can do the other ends. And I'm just going to, I don't need to put glue on these because they're not as big and I can manhandle that. So I'm just lining it up with where the points are and where the score line is. That just tucks in nicely. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Here we go. Oops. Red tape sticking to my fingers. Okay, and I'm just going to line that up so the points are there. Like so. And that is our first cracker put together. So you can see where we've cut out those little diamond shapes, it now brings that in, and that is going to create our cracker shape. Okay, now this one I have used all the same patterned paper, just again to give you a different contrast. Now if you wanted to, what you could do is where I said earlier about cutting the strips all in one, so you got that continuity of the paper coming across. And I think I said it was like 5 1/4 by 1 1/4 for the strips. You could actually cut it as a whole piece and do that as 5 1/4 by 5 inches, and then cut it up to get your pattern. So if you've got a nice picture on your cracker that you want to sort of follow around on all 4 sides, then you can sort of do it that way. So it just gives you different options as to what you want to do. So again, on this one, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here, and I'm just going to line this up just to make sure that that folds over like so. Oops, these little bits sticking to my fingers. And then I'm just going to peel off and do the ends like so. So I'm just making sure that that comes straight to the flat end so that the edge is straight, and that just tucks on there nicely. And then we're just going to do the same. So whichever method you choose to do, whether you're using up scraps or you want to use a sheet, then you've got that option. Okay, so there we are. So that's our two crackers. Okay, and for the little tags, you don't have to put a tag on, but like I did with the Halloween one, I just put a little tag on there. Okay, what I used was a corner rounder. I've got a slightly fancy one here, but depending on what pattern and that I want to have on the end, so I think I'll go with this one. Let's have a little look. I'm just going to pop that in there. Now, obviously, you've got the measurements for these on your paper. If you've got tag dies, then you can cut yourself out a tag die. But if you didn't have anything like that, you can do that. Or you can just, if you've got a plain corner rounder, just go around and use that. Let's just pick those little bits up out the way. Okay, and the hole I use, you can either use a hole punch, or if you've got a crocodile, or I've got a single hole punch here. So I'm just going to tuck those in. Let's get it around the right way, just so I can sort of roughly see some coming in a little bit. As near as, damn it. That's it. Right, okay, so I've got my tags done, and then I've literally gone round and with the pattern paper, I've done my faux stitching and inking as well. Now, I will just stick the two colours on both sides, but if you're gifting this, then you could then maybe put a little label on there as a, you know, to so-and-so or whoever. You know, if you're using these as place name markers for your Christmas or your celebratory table, then you can sort of do that. But I'll just sort of tuck these on here. I'll just put the other one on the other side, like so. I've got one with a pattern and one with the little fir cones on, like that. And then I did exactly the same for the other one. I'm just going to glue these on. And then it's literally then a case of, if you want to add any extra elements to your crackers, you can do. You might want to put some foliage on there, or perhaps you've got some cute little characters or something you want to stick on, you know, depending on the paper ranging that you use. Because this one's got holly on it, I might cut out some lovely holly pieces, or like a nice little Christmas rose or something. Obviously, it's your choice at the end of the day what you do. Now, on this one I used ribbon, but I'm thinking I could use some baker's twine. I have got some nice Christmas coloured baker's twine, or I've got some red, like I've got red that I could use, or I've got some Christmas ribbons, I've got some curling ribbons. So whatever you've got, you know, just obviously choose what you want to use. So I've got like some curling ribbons, I've got some ribbon like this. I think the baker's twine is not really going to match in with these. This was like bootlace, what we call bootlace ribbon. I just went for that because of the peachy sort of matched in nicely with the sort of Halloween-y. I think for this one, I'm going to use some of the curling ribbon. Now, I have said on the, if I can find the end, there we are. I have said, I think the measurements were about, I do believe, 12 inches. 10 to 12 inches. So I'm just going to cut 2 layers lengths rather of this one. Okay, now obviously tie off one end first. Okay, so I'm just going to put that round. I'm just going to tie that. Now I'm not going to pull it so tight that it cuts through that paper, okay, but I just want it tight enough that it's going to bring that shape together. Okay, now with the curling ribbon it's probably easier to tie it in a knot, and then we can curl that ribbon in a moment. Then whatever you're putting in, you would need to make sure you pop that in now while you've got one end open. What I would suggest is that if you're putting smaller things in there, then sometimes it's good to tuck a little bit of tissue paper in, and then put your item in, and then follow up with a little bit of tissue paper. And I would use tweezers to poke it in there just to make sure that that it all sits nicely in there and that the item doesn't fall out. But these boxes, like I said, you could probably pop in a lolly, or maybe have, you know, those little chocolate fun size bars that they do. Right, now while I'm putting this on, I'm just pulling that tight. So it's a little bit fiddly, but you'll get the hang of these. Okay, I'll just make sure that's pulled tight and wrap that round. Here we are. And then I'm just going to use my edge of the scissors and I'm just going to curl those on that one, and we'll curl that on that one, and then we'll do the same on this end, like so. Here we go. Whoops. It's alive, it's alive. There we go. So we've got like a couple of little curly bits, and there's my little tag, depending on what I wanted. If I wanted to put some stickers and bits and pieces and other embellishments on there, I can do. Okay, so that's one cracker done. And then the same for this one. So for the red one, again, I'm going to cut about the same sort of lengths. So it's a good way of just using things that you've got in your stash, really. Right, just move that out of the way. So again, I'm just going to pop this underneath. Now, if you've got a side that you want to be your top, so like here I've got the Noel, then just make sure that that's the side you tie off your ribbon, or if you're going to put a bow in, just so that it's at that edge there, right? So it just shows it. Right, I'm going to curl that now while we've got. Oh, there we go. Come on. That's it. I'll just curl that one like so. And obviously you can add extra bits and pieces to your cracker. Now I know you can get hold of hats and things like that for Christmas crackers, and you know, you can put a little joke and that in. I think we'd use, I don't know if we've still got some in our shop. We did have like the little Christmas cracker jokes and that. You know, or you can, I know you can buy the snaps separate as well as the little hats and things. So it's worth having. It depends on how much you want to, or what you want to add to your cracker, rather. Okay, right, I'm going to just give that a go. And there we are. And that is, I'll just move that around a bit, and that is our crackers done. So not necessarily for Christmas, can be used for Halloween. Okay, but just gives you a little idea, some different finishes off there as well. So there we are. Okay, anyway, hope you enjoy making these, and yeah, have a great time, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.